When we removed the CEO's picture, conversion rates actually increased by more than 30%. So that picture of the CEO, while that was sort of the face of their brand, it was not something that resonated with the customers on the website. They either didn't recognize the picture or it actually wasn't helpful.
But you also want to build that personal brand so the consumer knows what you're about, knows the kind of person that you are inside and out. And if they feel like they're a match to that, then they're most likely going to pick you over someone else just because they feel like you are the best person to help them with their business.
I think people really underestimate the power of local marketing.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk with GrowGetters, where I basically hang out with other growth-oriented, growth mindset professionals that know a lot of stuff that I don't. Because through this hive mind, we can learn just about anything. Today, we're going to talk about online marketing in 2025. What's new, what's old but still working, all the sexy and the fun. So online marketing in 2025. And I have three kick-ass grow-getters, amazing professionals with me today. So let's just take a moment. I want you guys to introduce yourselves. So Chris, feel free to go ahead first.
So I'm Chris Dayley. Thanks for having me on the show, by the way. Excited to chat today. So I'm a longtime digital marketer. I've been in digital marketing for about 15 years. I started my first agency specifically focused on conversion rate optimization in 2014. So I spent the last 10 or so years as a consultant working with just about every kind of company that you can imagine, D2C, B2B, SaaS companies, whatever you can name. I've worked with that type of business. So I am knee deep in the customer behavior when it comes to websites. I help businesses optimize their websites for conversion rates.
Excited to have you, Chris. A big part of why I wanted Chris on the show is I know he looks at the neuroscience as a marketer. He's a website wizard, so I'll probably talk a little bit of websites in a little bit. And Diane, I want to pass it over to you to go next.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Diane Murray, and I am also a digital marketer. I help entrepreneurs build out their personal brands online so they can grow their business. And I specifically work with LinkedIn, actually. So I help entrepreneurs utilize LinkedIn, which is a very underrated resource, build their personal brands and scale their business.
Awesome. And you said why I brought you on. I love LinkedIn. I've been building my personal brand. I think it doesn't matter what you're doing in your company. You should have a personal brand. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And Matt, please round us out.
I'm Matt Rouse. We are a development marketing agency, Hook Digital Marketing. We also run SMB Autopilot, which is a local business marketing tool that is an automation AI system, as well as a few e-commerce stores. And we started our agency, I guess originally I started my side project in marketing in 1996 when I built my first website for money. So since then, it's been a long road, but we've been doing this coming on 30 years now. So we've seen everything move from, pre-internet to where we are now. And it's a brave new world coming out with the AI. So we'll talk about that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you on, Matt, because yes, you have 30 plus years experience, but you're learning new tricks as well. So you've got the what worked back then and what's working now. And let's start with AI because it's 2025. It's the talk of the town now. We all understand that we can use ChatGPT to write posts or maybe Midjourney to make an image. You can either talk about either of those. I want to start with you, Matt, but what are some of the new, unique, fun ways that we can be utilizing AI for our online marketing?
Well, I think probably the most underused use case for AI is data analysis. especially for some of the more complex marketing tools. I would say it is rare, even in the digital marketing world, to find someone who has a good understanding of a tool like Google Analytics. There is so many options, so many ways to get reports out of it. A really easy thing to do is talk to a system like ChatGPT and say, this is what our company does. These are what our goals are. Here's some information about, what it is we're trying to achieve. How do I get the right reports out of Google Analytics? And it'll tell you step by step how to set up and get those reports. And once you get those reports, you could put it back into the same chat and say, now give me some insight about this report. What are the top 3 things I need to be looking for? You can get that kind of information. So you can get a really quick turnaround on not only grabbing some business data that probably already exists, but actually getting insight out of that data that you can take action with.
Data analytics. Is there anything else that the two of you are using AI for that might be a little different than I'm used to hearing?
So one thing that I've done, obviously, I am focused on websites and on improving conversion rates. One of the things that I find helpful, and especially for businesses that are trying to get a good foundation set, get a good initial website set up, is if you have a website already, you can pop your URL into a ChatGPT or whatever your tool is, and say summarize my top 15 value propositions. And a lot of times the AI tools will spit back value propositions that are much more concise and clearly communicated than what you have on your site. I find that a lot of entrepreneurs go at length explaining their value propositions, and sometimes it's hard to distill it down into a simple statement. So I've seen it be used very effectively to kind of summarize key value propositions, key selling points, and then you can take that one step further to say, recommend an experiment that I can run on my site, highlighting this value proposition, et cetera. And the tools a lot of times will help you even beef up some of those key selling points that you have. So that's again, if I think that one of the biggest struggles entrepreneurs have is getting out of their own tunnel vision, getting out of their own head. And so the AI tools can help you zero in on and be more concise in your communication of your selling points.
We might be saying things wrong or saying things that aren't converting, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering, Diane, because you build a personal brand, which the key word in personal brand is personal. We don't want to give that away to a robot, but are you using AI as well when you're helping clients build personal brands?
Yes, I think AI is a very obviously smart tool to use as an entrepreneur, especially if you're first starting out, because you don't have a whole team to delegate tasks to. So it's going to obviously speed up the rate that you're putting work out. So I definitely recommend them using it. I love to use it, honestly, for brainstorming, because a lot of times, even if I'm coming up with an idea for like a name of a product or a name of something, it's going to help me to kind of generate new ideas. And maybe I won't take it as is, but maybe there's a word in there that I said, okay, well, I really like this. I can use this with another list, something that I was using, and then combine it. So I've used it a lot for that. And then the thing with AI and just ChatGPT, I know you can also just program it to mimic your style of voice, your personal brand, and all of that. So it's all about kind of doing the work beforehand and setting it up so it kind of knows you and it's not sounding like that robot sound language that it just spits out when you're not just prompting it correctly and you're not feeding it the correct information. It's going to give you something that's very generic. So I think if you want something that's a little bit more personalized and custom, like you need to prompt it that way.
Mm. By show of hands, can you guys tell when something's generic AI? I know I can generally tell if it's a generic AI post.
Depends on what it is. If it's a LinkedIn post, I can generally tell, but outside of that, I don't know that I could.
If it uses a lot of British terminology and the person's, from California or something, you're just like, I know that you chat GPT'd this, but technically when you look at the studies, what happens is the detectors, like the actual AI detection software, fails more often than it works. So, it's yeah, we can sort of say, yeah, we think we know what it is, but I would say it's impossible to ever, really know. And once we get better at training those systems to write better, and just as Diane was saying, a really good, and this is a tip if you guys want for writing so that people can't tell that it was written by an AI, is take several of your social media posts or blog posts, the ones that were the most popular or that you think have the best version of your brand voice, and put them in a document. And then when you're going to write a new post, you upload the document and you say, using these examples, write whatever the thing is. And then it will learn from what you've posted or what you put in the document, and it'll use that as a template to write the new thing.
Let's talk about brand voice briefly. What does that mean? What's your brand voice, and how do you determine like what to talk about, what words to use, your style, any of that kind of stuff?
Well, I was at a talk with Leica Studios that makes, some of the kind of stop motion animation movies and things that you see. And their chief marketing officer had said brand voice is the lens through which everything that your business is seen. So the idea is whatever the kind of the style, the motif, the language you use, the way your visuals are set, for example, I used to work with Nike Sports Marketing, and they said, we only use photos of people in motion, right? That's part of their brand. So anyways, I like that idea of the lens, right? What is the lens you look through that kind of converts everything to the way that you want to be seen?
I want to hear some of your thoughts, Diane, and then you can go as well, Chris.
Yeah, so thank you. So brand voice is super important. And one thing that I always say is that your brand voice should be a reflection of you, because especially as an entrepreneur, if someone is signing up to work with you, they are expecting to work and to meet the same person as they see online. So if my content has a very inspirational kind of tone and background to it, and then they meet me and that doesn't match my personality, then there's going to be a disconnect, because the client is expecting one thing, but then they're meeting someone completely different. So that is super important to me. And everyone says like, oh, be authentic yourself, but it really does come down to that, because you need to portray exactly who you are online as who you are in person. You can't be two separate people, because then a client is going to come in expecting to meet someone that is super inspirational, and then they're meeting someone else. So that's really important. But the other part of it is just keep that consistency. So if your tone maybe is a little bit more controversial or has a little bit more of an attitude to it, and that's who you are as a person, you need to be consistent all the way through with that. It can't be that you're one person on one platform, another person on another platform, your website is different, and then they meet you is totally different. So you need to have that consistency all the way through your different avenues that you're reaching customers, and not just have them all be separate. So that's really important to me.
So good. So good. Chris, did you have something?
Yeah, I just have a slightly different take. Of course, again, I'm coming in a little later in the process. Brand voice, I think a lot of times starts when you're posting or speaking online. And a lot of times it will carry through into your website experience. One of the things that I point out is you need to be careful about drawing conclusions about your brand or your brand voice. So an example, I had a client where the the face of their brand was their CEO, and their CEO was out, getting a lot of publicity, stirring up a lot of traffic that was being driven to the site. So because he was more or less the face of the brand, the business put a picture of their CEO on their homepage of their website. Made sense, right? Like, okay, this guy's the face of the brand. Let's put his picture on the homepage. Well, I ran an A/B test. I'm a big testing guy. That's most of what I do for brands. And so we ran an A/B test with the CEO's picture, without the CEO's picture. And when we removed the CEO's picture, conversion rates actually increased by more than 30%. So that picture of the CEO, while that was sort of the face of their brand, it was not something that resonated with the customers on the website. They either didn't recognize the picture, or it actually wasn't helpful once they got to the actual website. The customer was looking for something else. And so I always caution brands and say, listen, it's great if you have a brand voice, and if you have a face of your brand, or if you have something that seems to resonate on social media. But be careful about making and drawing conclusions that because it works on social media, this is what you should put on your website. Because sometimes customers don't want to keep getting hammered with, this same person's picture over and over again, or whatever it is that you're posting online.
Let me ask a question in that regard then, Chris, and then you can kick this off. Because we've talked a lot about using AI ourselves, building a brand, listening to our customer, but we haven't talked a ton about the consumer yet. Are people in 2025 different than they used to be? Has consumer behavior changed? I know you look at the data in this a lot. Like, what is the consumer behavior like nowadays? Has it changed?
So my experience, and again, I'm looking at things on websites. So how are people behaving when they get to a business's website? My experience over the last 5 years is things have changed almost as much as I have ever seen them change in my career. When COVID hit, people radically had to shift their behavior. People were doing more of everything online, right? People were shopping more online. People were communicating more online. I mean, everything had to be done online. And so what I saw was a lot of brands saw this huge influx of traffic. And it was almost like in 2020 and 2021, you could almost do anything and you would be successful. You could put just about anything on your website. And the fact that you had a website and had a product meant you were going to convert people. And so the challenges that I was facing with businesses in 2020 and 2021 was, hey, we're having record-breaking traffic. How do we maximize conversions with these visitors? Fast forward to 2022, in the last couple of years, because so many people shifted their behavior online, all of your competitors are now online, right? Everybody built an online presence, has spent a significant amount of time and money on SEO, on just their online presence in general. And so now customers have a plethora of options. People are also shifting a little more away from online, right? I mean, when they can. People had to do everything online during COVID, and now people can kind of mix and match. And so what I've seen is it's more important than ever right now to have unique value propositions for your business. Like I said, in 2020, 2021, you could have anything and say just about anything, and you would probably convert people. Now, because there are so many other choices, customers are converting at a much lower rate on every website that I've seen. I mean, most businesses are at like their all-time low conversion rates right now. And that's because primarily consumers have so many more options online now. And so this is where, when we were talking about AI, figuring out what are my key value propositions, what are the unique selling propositions that I have, and then what are the ones that are going to resonate best with my customers, right? It's no longer good enough to just say, I'm a digital marketing consultant, right? Because there's 100,000 digital marketing consultants. I have to say exactly who is it that I serve, and what kind of results do I get, and what are the pain points that I address, And so I think that's the biggest shift that I have seen over the last 5 years or so, is it's more important than ever for brands to have unique selling points prominently displayed on a website.
Do we agree, disagree? Do we have anything to add that maybe wasn't mentioned here?
There is more options offline for people than there was during COVID time, obviously. But I think that the shift of people being kind of more discerning with their spending also comes with some of the other issues that are post-COVID, like increases in housing pricing, as well as things like inflation. So people are kind of a little watching their pennies, a little more than they used to. And I think that the messaging needs to shift now towards more about value versus maybe like it could be a unique selling feature, but I think that your unique value proposition has to include some kind of statement or idea about value, right? For example, we have a place that makes the best Adirondack chairs. Their company name is literally the best Adirondack chair company. And they were struggling. And when we push the value proposition of buy the best now and have it last, the rest of your life, rather than buying stuff from a big box store that is plastic garbage you're going to throw away next year. And that has hammering that message home has really helped them. And so I think people are really looking maybe not necessarily about spending less, but more about how can I get more value with the money that I spend over a longer term.
Real quick comment. I know I'm in New York. Diana's in New York. She's a little south. I'm on the west, but who doesn't want a good Adirondack chair if they're going to the mountains? Right. But I'm on a tangent here. Please go ahead.
So I actually have points to piggyback both Matt and Chris. So with Matt, I think that people are looking for the value, but I think they're more cautious about when they're shopping because they feel like they can't get it wrong. So if they're making a purchase, whether it's Adirondack's chair or, a service, they want to make sure that even if they're paying a little bit more, you're guaranteeing results because they don't want to then pay someone else or go buy another of the same product and feel like they just wasted money. So that's one shift that I have seen is that people want to get one thing, even if it costs a little bit more, but they know they're guaranteed that kind of result versus then trying to have someone else fix it. And then piggybacking what Chris was saying, the other thing I've noticed, and that's just in general, everyone shops a little bit different. And I know how I shop if I need a service for my business is different how someone else is shopping for another service-based business provider. So obviously your unique value proposition is super important because you want to make sure that you're offering something that helps you to stand out versus your competitors. But the other part is also like your personality. So if I personally don't feel that I connect with the other entrepreneur who I want to hire for my business, I'm probably not going to work with them just because I feel like there's going to be a disconnect. So having a really good value proposition is important, but you also want to build that personal brand so the consumer knows what you're about, knows the kind of person that you are inside and out. And if they feel like they're a match to that, then they're most likely going to pick you over someone else just because they feel like you are the best person to help them with their business. And that's how I personally shop for my business, but I know that everyone shops a little bit different. And I think that is something that is very often forgotten.
I want to just comment quickly on what you said, Diane, because I think you're spot on. And one thing that you said reminded me of something I saw recently. So I was running a split test for a client of mine that sells clothes online. So, this is an e-commerce company. And we wanted to understand what is the most important value proposition to customers. So we took one of the pages on their site, we took their product page, and we tested 5 or 6 different versions of their product page, and each one featured a single value proposition near the price. So one of them was like, the price plus free shipping, and one of them was the price plus they had this perfect fit guarantee that they featured, so we had the perfect fit guarantee, and we had another one that was like limited inventory, or, those kinds of things. So we tested all these different versions. And when we featured this perfect fit guarantee, like you were talking about, Diane, where there was something that was reassuring the customer that they were guaranteed to find a product they would like, conversion rates increased by 23%. Versus when we had free shipping, conversion rates increased by 7%. So both of them worked, but the guarantee was almost 3 times more impactful than the free shipping message was. And so I think, to your point, Dan, if we can figure out what is it that our customers really care about, what is the thing that is going to either reassure them that this is the right, service or product for them, and can I get some data to show what's going to really move the needle for them, then we can really improve our business.
I guarantee we all have more in the tank. So let's extend this a little bit more. What else is working? We obviously are in business to convert, gain customers, clients, relationships, make some money, help some people. What else is currently working when it comes to bridging that gap and converting a random person into a long-term partner?
The idea of converting a random person into a customer immediately, a lot of times, is what people try to focus on. And it's just not the goal, right? The goal should be, how can I have as many touch points as possible with a customer through the kind of lens of my brand and my brand voice, so that they are comfortable, right, making that purchase, and, or signing up for our service, or, whatever the thing is. It's going to be a different trust level depending upon what it is. So if I'm hiring someone to come clean my apartment every month, that's a different trust level than having somebody ship me a shirt. These are different things. Also, there's a different trust level to buying $3,000 worth of furniture than there is for, maybe buying like a gift for someone or some flowers, right? These are all different levels of trust. But within industries, there's also different levels of trust, right? So like one of our clients is a florist, which is why I'll use the flower example. So if I'm sending flowers to someone, I want to make sure that they're going to get them. It's not the end of the world if it's late or something like that. But if it's a funeral, it is the end of the world if they're late, right? Because that's the whole point. Or a wedding, right? So there's different trust levels in those situations as well. And the only way that you can really kind of inspire trust is to have a long-term plan. Like, you need a long game. And like, if I've talked to you personally several times in person, as well as through, we're on podcasts and we've talked online before, we've emailed back and forth. I trust you a lot, right? Because we've had these interactions. So when you have a customer, you need to determine what is the pathway to trust before what is the pathway to conversion. And I mean, that's my opinion, but it seems to work for what we're doing, right? So how do you have all those touch points that you want? That could be social media, could be advertising, could be podcasts, it could be books, or how do you show your expertise? All of these things are ways that it can be done. And like I said, it's going to be different depending upon what the purchase, that the person is making and how much trust is required.
I have something to add to that.
Sure.
A lot of people talk about conversion and getting the customer, but a lot of people don't talk about customer retention. And I think that is something that is really missed, because obviously you want to gain new customers, you want to grow your business, convert, all of the things. But what about when the customer is actually working with you, and even after they are done working with you? Are you providing the best onboarding experience? Are you providing the best offboarding experience? Are you checking in after they are done maybe with your program, or they're done working one-to-one with you? Are you still keeping that relationship? Because that's going to help you to build your business, because that means obviously referrals. And we all know that it's a lot easier to close a referral versus closing someone off of social media. And also, if you're looking at high luxury brands for handbags, hotels, I don't know, all high luxury brands, even if you made a purchase back, I don't know, in January and you buy this really expensive brand, you're going to get a card from them. You're going to get an email checking in. You're going to have those touch points to keep that relationship even after you already purchased from them. And you're going to have them top of mind because they're reminding you like, oh, hi, like we're checking in on you, but you're saying, wow, I really love this bag. Maybe next year I can treat myself to another one. Or, you know what, let me tell my friend about this person that works at this store and I'm going to refer business. So while yes, you want to obviously convert new business, but it's also about making sure that you are caring for your existing clients and even past clients. So you're delivering a really clean and luxury experience all the way through.
Any last thoughts from you, Chris?
I think I've probably spoken too much. So I think I've said everything on this topic.
It's a beautiful topic, and there's two more things I wanted to tackle today. I wanted to tackle LinkedIn, and everybody talks about like these online online brands and businesses. A lot of the listeners might be brick and mortar, so we'll talk location dependent as well. But let's chat LinkedIn, and I want Diane to start with this. Is LinkedIn just for people looking for a resume or posting a resume and getting a job? Is it just for people that what's the LinkedIn for? That's the question.
So it obviously is for people that are looking for new jobs. It's a great way to get connected to recruiters. But when it's often overlooked, it's for entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship has such a big opportunity on LinkedIn. One thing that I always hear is other entrepreneurs wanting to build these online brands, and they go to TikTok, they go to Instagram right away saying, I need to have this massive following. I need to do all these videos. I'm not comfortable doing this. And I said, okay, well, we can either try and work through those discomforts and try to figure out a way to grow your Instagram and your TikTok. Or we can also try to go on LinkedIn. It's a little bit more professional. You don't have to do these trendy reels or TikToks and to go viral. You don't have to rely on that. You can start to create really good educational content while still grabbing people's attention, but you're going to be doing this in a more professional way. And I have found that a lot of entrepreneurs feel a lot better with that content and posting on LinkedIn and having more of that professional setting. They feel a little bit more comfortable doing that versus doing something that is completely different than what they're used to. LinkedIn also has a really good organic content algorithm, while other social media platforms are highly saturated and you need to always be competing for attention. You need to be using trending audio. You need to be doing a lot and you need to be posting a lot of content. LinkedIn really has still a lot of room for growth. So I always say LinkedIn is now where Instagram was back in 2015, 2016, when if you started posting on Instagram then, you probably have hundreds of thousands of followers now just because you got in at the right time. So I say, if you still want to utilize the platform in a way that has organic growth and actually see results, this might be a better fit for you.
Matt and Chris, are you guys using LinkedIn as well?
I post pretty much every day. And
Why?
I do not have a sales strategy for LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn because I like to write stuff about business and AI and that kind of thing. And my profile literally says, will not DM you to sell anything. So people can message me feeling, comfortable that I'm not going to turn around and be like, hey, and then pitch my whatever service to them.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the one thing that drives me absolutely bonkers about LinkedIn is probably 50% of the connection requests I get are instantly followed up with a message and a personal message, which is obviously either AI generated or some template that is then followed up with a series of messages once a week saying, "Did you get my last message?" So I am very opposed to that type of strategy because I hate it, and it's one of the things that makes me not want to get on LinkedIn. The thing that I personally use LinkedIn for is fostering and following up with online connections, just creating warm context. Because I also try to avoid anything that is super promotional, like self-promotional in nature, aside from like, hey, I talked to Ben today. But outside of that, I think the people that I've seen that have been the most successful on LinkedIn are people who are, as Diane's mentioned, being genuine and authentic online and rarely, if ever, self-promotional. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I anytime I see one of his posts, it makes me want to engage, and it never has anything to do with his business. Aside from some tip of, hey, here's a way that you can engage with your employees. Here's a way that you can, motivate people that you're working with. Here's something that someone did that I work with that was awesome. Those are posts that make me want to engage, and I never feel threatened and I don't think Gary V would ever want to work with me. And so I'm not ever worried that he's going to DM me, but that's what I personally see as the biggest way of using LinkedIn in a positive way, is to engage with others and create content that is helpful rather than promotional.
Another thing that I noticed, Ben, on LinkedIn, and Chris, you kind of reminded me of this, is there are a lot of people who used to be really big on Twitter before it became X, who now specifically post on LinkedIn, and maybe they're on like Mastodon or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But they just don't post on X anymore. And if you want to see somebody who has, like, a perfect example is like Rand Fishkin, who is one of the founders of Moz, one of the biggest people in the SEO world for search optimization. And, now with SparkTuro, right, they have a audience research tool that's fabulous. He posts like hardcore research about like what happens after you search something on the internet, like 0-click searches and all the social networks trying to keep people on platform instead of letting them, letting you add links and things like that. And he doesn't post on Twitter anymore, right? So LinkedIn gives you a chance to find those people who've kind of been part of that exodus from X, regardless of the reason why. If you want to have access to those people, LinkedIn is where they are.
And of course, we're talking about LinkedIn, but this is all social platforms. What should we be saying if we're leaving a comment, if we're sending a direct message? All of us agree that we don't like that automated fake personalization, comment a week crap, treating us like we're in a funnel. What are the things we should be saying on the platform? What is a good message look like?
I can say what not to do.
Okay.
Do not set up an AI system that reads the post, summarizes it, and leaves it as a comment, because those are rampant right now. And you can immediately look at them. That's something you can tell right away. If it's just a summary of what the person said, and then it says, yeah, thanks for pointing that out, or whatever, you're like, okay, AI person, right? That just says you're too lazy to read the information. But also, like, if you're posting on all these accounts of people you think are influential in your industry, but you're not reading what they're saying, you're not actually learning anything from the influential people in your industry, right? So why would I want to have anything to do with you in the first place? So you can send me, week after week of more and more desperate automated DMs. Like, it's just not, it's just not a way to do business, I think, just like Chris and Diane both were saying.
Well, the funny thing about that, Matt, is even if the strategy worked, even if your AI algorithm that is like building these relationships for you online, even if it worked, how weird would it be to jump on a call with someone and for them to say, hey, I loved this comment that you made here and here, or what did you mean when you said this? And then you're like, I have no idea because I didn't make that comment, right? Like it's not a real relationship building tactic. And I think LinkedIn in my mind is a platform to build professional relationships, which just can't happen if you're automating it.
Diane, I want you to have the final word on
Yeah,
this.
I agree with that. I think another thing to stay away from that I think you could give a little bit more is any comments that says like, I love this, or this is great, or I agree. So you can write that as the beginning, but you also need to add a little bit more substance to it. Because your goal is to say, okay, you're supporting other people's comments. You want to be seen. You want to gain that attention. And if you're just saying, I love this and this is great, it's very generic and it's not really doing much. But if you write, oh, this is great, I agree, but I think this, and this, and maybe like write one sentence or two at most, but you're writing, not AI, then I think you have the chance of other people who are then seeing that post say, okay, well, I actually like this person and they wrote this comment and I agree with this, or, let me check out what their profile is about. So it's all about just using the comments in a very smart and strategic way versus having AI do it and summarize and make this long comment that nobody's reading, or just writing, this is great, or I love this. It's just very generic. It's not doing much.
I think it also depends on what your, again, brand strategy and brand voice is. There's a person in my industry, in the conversion rate optimization industry, that's kind of built a name on LinkedIn for being the provocative comment lever. So somebody will post something about conversion rate optimization. This person will go and directly challenge what they say almost every time. And it appears, my opinion anyways, is that it's a good natured challenge, that's like, I want to really push you here. I want to really dig. But it generates a lot of engagement, right? I mean, it always spawns a conversation. And so that's not my personal brand voice, because that's not my personality to go around challenging people. But I do think the tactic of starting conversations is a fantastic strategy.
On the message, please go ahead. Please go.
I was going to say, if you compare that with, proof of expertise in your industry, right? So you have to be an expert to challenge someone. I mean, you don't have to be, but generally speaking, if you're on LinkedIn, you're doing it. I'm not talking about like, Twitter or Facebook or something where people just challenge stuff for no reason.
Right.
But yeah, if you're, in conversion rate optimization, let's say it's like the CEO of Winter, right? The message testing platform. He's out there. Pete Laja, I think this is his name. Yep. He goes out and he's like, well, maybe you should have tested that message before you put it on your website, whatever, right? But there's expertise there, right? He's like, oh, I have a startup in your industry, right, that has literally thousands of clients. That shows expertise, right? That you can back up what you're saying, and I think that proof of expertise is important. People need to be able to go to your profile and go, oh, yeah, you know what? When it comes to, business connections, podcasting, Ben's my guy, because I can see what he's done. And that's another thing that's pretty important on your LinkedIn, is being able to show that proof of expertise, or at least have a pathway to it, right? Some kind of breadcrumb trail that people can go, oh, okay, Matt wrote a book about this topic, so apparently he knows what he's talking about.
Sweet. If people are enjoying the breadcrumbs, I want to let the listener know we've got one more topic. Well, we talked about starting conversations, so I really wanted to quickly ask each and every one of you, if the listener is loving the heck out of this conversation, how can they go start a conversation with you? So, Chris, really quickly, how can someone connect with you, ask you a couple questions, get some help?
I am on LinkedIn. That's actually the only social platform that I am on. So if people want to check me out, my Chris Dayley, last name is Dayley, and I would love to chat conversion rate optimization, digital marketing, whatever the topic is. Would love to engage with any listener.
Yeah, and open up the tabs while you're watching or listening, guys. And if not, the show notes are here for you. You can take a screenshot, come back to them. Diane, how can we connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn and also on Instagram. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn on my personal page, or you can also connect with me on Instagram at DMB Consulting.
Matt, same question.
I am Matt Rouse on LinkedIn, MatTrouse, or you can go to MatthewRouse.com if you want to check out some of my books and podcast appearances and things like that.
One more topic today, because I feel like I have an online business as a marketer. A lot of people are brands, they build brands, they're consultants. Online businesses are sexy. It's the talk of the town. But one of my favorite people to learn from is Cody Sanchez, specifically because she talks about these dirty, boring brick and mortar businesses, industries people aren't always getting into, industries that are proven. You can buy businesses, you can start and scale easily. You just need to be willing to maybe get your hands dirty, maybe have a location, maybe work and service locally. And I know, Matt, you work with a lot of businesses that have local businesses. Is everything we talked about, first off, does that all apply to a traditional local brick and mortar? And what haven't we talked about that a traditional business should focus on?
Well, I think most of it applies. Maybe conversion rate optimization on your website is not on the mind of somebody who has a brick and mortar store, but it should be, right? Because you want people to contact you. I think the most overlooked part, unless you're a business who focuses on kind of high capacity, like a restaurant or a bar or something like that, maybe a large retail location, they're kind of clued in that like Google Business is a driver of probably a large percentage of their customers. But I think most other businesses don't really see that as being that important. And if they do, they have no idea how it works. And we actually did a very unscientific survey where we just emailed a bunch of our clients and asked them, what do you think is the factor that makes you rank above another business locally? And every single one said the number of 5-star reviews. And if you just go look up any business locally, just type in like Rochester, New York plumber. The one in first place is not the one with the highest number of positive reviews. That means we know it's not true, right? So turns out over the years, we've worked out roughly 167 things that go into local rankings. And of those, many of them have changed over time, but we can't tell which ones because Google doesn't tell us, right? So I think the most important thing, though, is to think about, as we were talking about like trust and starting conversations and just kind of that idea of getting the word out outside of the internet is super important. And a really easy way that, you can see this is if you take two of the same types of business, like say one is like a Wendy's, burger place, and the one next to it is Joe's Burger Shop, who just happened to open one, next door, but it's his only location. If somebody types in, hamburger, Wendy's is going to come up before them, right? Because they're a more well-known business. But just because you don't have to have 2,000 locations to be more well-known than someone else. So the idea of being more well-known for the thing that you do in your location is just the same idea as having, being McDonald's being more well-known than Harvey's or something like that, right? So I think people really underestimate the power of local marketing, especially, like the local podcast. You and I talked about this in person. You get a business on your local podcast and their business improves because people in the area know more about them. And those things get transcribed by the search engine, and the search engine adds that into their index. And then next time somebody searches, their business is maybe a couple ranks higher than it used to be because they were on a local podcast, right? So I think local search is something that gets overlooked by a lot of businesses, and I think it's vital.
It's true that the smaller the business or the brand I have on my show, the higher probability my website ranks on Google for their stuff. So quickly, guys, anyone else have any other tips for someone who's marketing locally? My question for you, Chris, is the conversion, is my website any different if I'm a local versus an online, or is it pretty much the same strategies?
It just depends. I mean, the principle of conversion rate optimization is figure out what your customer needs to see and experience in order to convert. So if you're a local business, you just need to define what is the conversion that I'm trying to accomplish here. It might be better word of mouth. And if it's better word of mouth, then your conversion rate optimization strategy is, how do I delight my customers so that they want to talk about it? What do I do that goes above and beyond their expectations so they want to talk about this and spread my business via word of mouth? If your conversion is setting a reservation online for a restaurant or something else, you want to just figure out, what does a customer need to experience in order to take that step, that next conversion step, and then begin optimizing for it. So the principles are the same regardless of what the conversion action is.
I know Diane put in the chat that she's got a client calling her. That is a good sign that our phones are ringing. So as we close, Diane, tell us one more time, how can we connect with you and work with you? Say hello.
Yeah, so you could connect with me on LinkedIn at my personal page, or you can connect with me on Instagram. I have 2 pages. I have my business page, GMB Consulting, and also my personal page as well, which is just my name.
I promise we'd be done in time, so you have to take off. That's quite all right.
Sorry.
Clients come first.
Yeah.
Let's go over to Matt. How can we support you as well?
Honestly, connect with me on LinkedIn. I also have a number of books that I have written, 8 now, small business and small to medium-sized business books for a number of topics, including, I think, this one that honestly didn't sell as well as I thought it would, which is, Will AI Take My Job? Apparently, a lot of people don't want to know. So
they'll see.
I should have maybe called it something else, like maybe it won't take your job.
How to keep AI from taking your job.
That's true. And you know what? I cover that in my book. So maybe that should have been the leader on that one. We'll see.
You needed a beta test, Matt.
I know. I had to push it out so quick because things changing in the AI world all the time. But yeah, or MatthewRouse.com. Our agency is Hook Digital Marketing, which is hookdm.com. And in Canada, it's hookdm.ca. And we also have a local marketing product for local search that's called SMB Autopilot, which is currently in beta. So you can't just go sign up for it. If you want to try it out, you got to message me.
Sweet. Check out the show notes, y'all. And Chris, close us out. How can we support you?
Like I said, please connect with me on LinkedIn. If people are interested in more about my business, my consulting agency is called Smart CRO, smart-cro.com. And so I'd be happy to do a conversion rate audit for anybody that's interested in digging deeper into how they can optimize their website.
Sweet. So online marketing 2025. If anyone had a question, there's a comment section. You're on LinkedIn, you're YouTube. Put that question in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast, take a screenshot, share it to your story, send us a DM. All the stuff is in the show notes. It's just up to you, the listener, to go take action. We covered a lot of topics today. So I hope people reach out to y'all and continue the conversation. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, man.